And give me a second. Because
is that what you're looking at?
You're looking through there. And
okay.
Oh, yeah, they got you. And we're also live here. This is the Exceptional Conservative Show. That's going out live. Different screen. I have two screens on my side. And folks, if you hear her in the background, this is Claudia Tenney, former Congresswoman from New York 22nd District. She's been running around in CPAC. We've been trying to get together and talk to each other for about 2-3 days now.
Yeah, thanks.
And I'm happy to have you on the show. So, oh no, I can't put it too far. I'm trying to share it. It's because I don't have all my mics.
Oh, all right.
So I'm working off of like 3 different mics here. Everything's on backup.
All right.
Claudia, how have you been?
Very good, very good. I've been, I'm loving this. It's a lot of fun. Seeing a lot of old friends. I haven't been to CPAC in a while, so it's nice to have the time to be able to come to CPAC. So it's great.
Oh, it is. And I see that you've been very busy. You've been talking to everybody I'm trying to get to. You are already talking to, which is
I'm trying to help you get them on your show. So
which I am very appreciative
of.
But it's just amazing to me that a lot of people don't realize you keep a lot of the contacts. I mean, you were here as much as the media wanted to say that you were all on your own. If they came down to CPAC, and I know some people who said that don't come to CPAC and don't realize that you have a lot of friends. You have a lot of people you have great relationships with. You've introduced me to a couple of them, and I've seen you with others while I was working. So let me ask you, how are your friends? How has CPAC been for you so far?
It's been great. It's really interesting and very different. The last time I was at CPAC, it was 2015. And so it's great to see a big crowd, more diverse crowd, lots of young people, as they always have. We just went down to the, the vendor area downstairs, and that was fun just to see all the different kinds of coalitions that are out there for conservatives. There's a Made in America makeup place. I bought some lipstick, Made in America, really fun. Yeah, here it is. See, it's red, white, and blue. Red, white, and blue, Made in America lipstick. I love my Made in America with Cheryl Manufacturing. It was just great to see, go there. I visited the Log Cabin Republicans who endorsed me, friends of mine, went to go see if some of my friends were there. But it's been great. It's kind of like a reunion. A lot of my congressional colleagues and friends, some are in the Senate now, we're here, so I've gotten to see all of them. And so it's great. It's everybody keeps asking me to run again. I'm not ruling it out, but I haven't... I haven't decided yet.
You're going there. I didn't even go close to that yet. So let's go into it a little bit, just a little bit. First, more important.
Yeah.
We've known each other for 6-7 years now. So we talk every so often, but I don't even know some of these answers. But let's start with, first of all, how have you been?
Yeah, doing well. I mean, things are busy. I'm looking at a lot of other options. Obviously, we still have our family business, which I'm always had. I just had to kind of give it up when I was a member of Congress. It was part of the ethics rules. And so that's still happening. Just looking at other options for me in the private sector, possibly in government also. The administration, and there's a lot of things I'm exploring, and I'm taking the time to look at it to really feel like what's best for me and what is going to be, how can I help as an advocate also, and to continue to serve my country, which was a complete honor to serve in the State Assembly for 6 years and in Congress, it was only one term. It was an incredible term. I think the 115th Congress in which I served is going to go down as one of the most important Congresses probably in decades. In fact, a lot of my friends who've been in Congress for a number of years said if you only did one thing, it was to serve in the 115th Congress, which was so significant. And so I feel really great about that. It was a very interesting time, at least that year, to serve. And what we were able to accomplish, on a national level for our district, for New York's 22nd district, was unprecedented and historic. You name it. We whether it's providing resources to the cities, through community service block grants, community development block grants, education, the airport, economic development, the Air Force Research Lab, otherwise known as Rome Lab. The tax cuts literally brought hundreds of millions of dollars in money right out of the federal treasury into the pockets, of our middle income taxpayers and lower income taxpayers. And it's funny because the Democrats kept saying they're only for the wealthy. Well, Andrew Cuomo is crying the blues now because rich people are getting their taxes raised because of the loopholes we got rid of in the tax reform. And we realigned tax reform so that the middle and lower income taxpayers are getting a benefit. The wealthy people are paying a little more, and it's the complete opposite of what they're doing. And I love Andrew Cuomo crying about it, but so that the truth, finally comes out. But I think history will look very strongly and well upon the 115th Congress. So I just, I've been doing that. I've been very busy. It's been kind of really nice time to just kind of relax a little bit. I did some travel. Went to South Korea on a former members of Congress trip to see the situation there and go to the DMZ in the demarcation line in North Korea. I went to a new area of North Vietnam or North Korea.
What else is there?
Yeah. Well, there's a new area that has been opened up that we got to visit. We were the first visitors to come to one of the areas where they're doing excavations. So the excavations are, they're building a road, they're clearing out an area and looking for remains. And it's right near the Battle of Port Chap Hill, which is a famous Korean War battle where many Americans lost their lives. So we got to see sort of the dynamic going on between the North Korean, South Korean entities, the military, which was fascinating. And, just been kind of getting stuff together, thinking about writing a book too. So there's a lot to do. You can't imagine how much time you spend, as a legislator, how much free time you have when you're done. You're so used to such a busy schedule that
it opens up a whole wide berth.
Yeah, so it's been fun. I mean, I'm having a great time. It's really interesting, and I get to actually spend a little more time really, diving deep, deep dives into issues and everything, which when you're in Congress, you just don't have that kind of time. You're just you're being pulled every which way. So,
well, then let me ask you. Yeah. The book I didn't know about, so I'm curious about that. But before I get there, so let me address, you mentioned the administration. And I know there's a rumor going around about you joining with President Trump's administration. I know there's a rumor going around that you're going to run again in the New York 22nd. Let's throw those, any truth or any amount of truth in either of those, if you can say.
Yeah, I mean, I have met with the White House team and the president's team and discussed what's available, what the options are, what my interests are, and I just haven't made any decisions yet about what I want to do. It's a long process, and so that's something I really can't say where and when if I were to do that, if I were to make that decision. I'm also looking in the private sector, which is very appealing in many ways, and but I'm also just interested in in possible. I mean, I don't know if another run is in the cards. Of course, being here at CPAC, people are coming up to me urging me to run because they think that I can win the seat back. Interestingly enough, I just attended at 1 o'clock a really, really insightful breakout session on voter fraud and the issues facing us in the future. New York is one of the worst states in terms of voter fraud, and not having voter ID and not being able to preserve the integrity of our ballot, which is, I contend, was an issue in my race as well. So there's a lot of things to look into and to consider before I even, launch a campaign. I think I have time. I have 100% name ID basically in the district. And so I think I have a little more time. Obviously, I'm a good fundraiser. I know how to raise money. I raised almost $4 million in the last term. But my opponent the current congressman is also a very good fundraiser and has a lot more resources than we do. But it's a Republican district, and I think people are finally seeing what the New York State Assembly is all about, because everything that you're seeing on the national level coming out of New York, whether it's the horrific late-term abortion bill that my opponent was a co-sponsor of, voted for 4 times, the Green New Deal, which he voted for, something very similar to it in the New York State Assembly. He voted for Medicare for all. He has the single most left-wing voting record in the New York State Assembly when he ran against me last year. True. Yet he was cast as a moderate, and that was one of the media narratives across the nation, is to take these far-left candidates and cast them as moderates. And there was really no opposition to that. The media just did not want to talk about our records matched up. And I had an excellent record in the Assembly, and I had an even better record in Congress. So none of, merit doesn't mean anything at this point. It's all about the media trying to, smear people. My favorite line from all of CPAC And my favorite event so far was last night when we got to see Diamond and Silk, the comedic sisters who are just terrific, the Trump supporters. But one thing they said, which I think is really true, and I love the way they put it, they said, they smear you when they fear you. And
True.
I was smeared so badly in the last election, just all these falsehoods. And I've never even gotten a speeding ticket. I have a superlative record as a lawyer, as a business owner. My dad was a state Supreme Court justice for 35 years, and now all of a sudden people don't think I'm an honest person. They think that, these falsehoods about how I somehow had something to do with their spectrum bill, which, by the way, ironically, was all my opponent's fault because he teamed up with Andrew Cuomo to create the monopoly in the assembly.
It was a state deal.
He didn't oppose it until after it became an issue. Things like that were very frustrating to deal with, like how I was taking pre-existing conditions away when, in fact, I was the co-sponsor of the bill to protect pre-existing conditions.
Right.
A lot of falsehoods they were able to get away with. And voters, sadly, are not well informed because we have a terrible media organizations in our region. We don't have enough media.
No.
And our media are not independent, and the independent ones like you don't get enough of a voice. Most of them, I think, are really in the tank with the politicians.
Well,
They're
right.
like an arm of the politicians.
I agree with so
And
many.
it's not Republican or Democrat. It's whoever the insider politicians with the money and clout who control the spending and the businesses. Those are the ones that they play the game.
And that's sad. Because that's
it's
not
wrong. It's the opposite of what the fourth estate should be.
Absolutely.
They're supposed to be a watchdog, not a lapdog.
Absolutely. Something I wanted to ask about, because I've been making it an issue, and not everyone agrees with me on this, but you know what? There's very few people who've been a member of Congress. There's not a lot of people to ask about this. So far, your opponent, Anthony, we'll call him Anthony, he has yet to pass a bill. He has yet to put in or submit.
You mean an original bill?
An original bill.
Excuse me, though. Wait, he's introduced several of my bills without giving me credit.
Well, they're being reintroduced.
And now he's got new sponsors, and now the media just loves all these bills he's introducing that I introduced. Somehow it's because the Democrats introduced them. Am I having deja vu? Am I back in the state assembly again?
I've called them out on that, and I've seen that more than a few times. There's 3 bills, I believe.
I think the one that really bothers me is the no budget, no pay bill.
That's yours.
And
straight.
No, there were other people. I reintroduced it. There were others. But here's what really bothers me about it is he's claiming that we shouldn't get paid while the budget isn't passed or while we haven't finished the appropriations. So last year, during the government shutdown, I introduced that bill. Yes. And not only did I not take my pay, and we get paid once a month, so he hadn't actually been affected by it because his pay didn't come in yet.
Right.
I donated my pay each day of the shutdown to an organization, mostly veterans organizations. One was the Humane Society because it happened to fall on the day of one of their telethons. I donated my pay, which is a hardship for me because I don't have the kind of money Anthony Brindisi does as a son of and a law partner of a personal injury law firm, which makes millions off of the hardships and the tragedies of other people. So I didn't have that kind of money, but it meant a lot to me to live up to the bill that I put in. He didn't. Not only did he not give up his pay, he never donated any of that pay like I did in a very ceremonial way. And I will tell you a funny story about it. I was doing an interview with one of the reporters in our region, and we were standing, and she said, "Oh, you've donated your pay to the Humane Society. It's whatever the net pay was. It was after I paid taxes, I gave him whatever my portion would be. I can't remember what the exact dollar amount was." And she said, "But Anthony Brindisi just brought $10,000 in from New York State." As if they were equivalent. I go, that's my money too. That's taxpayer money that he's bringing in, otherwise known as pork, right out of the governor's slush fund that he's doing to buy votes to win an election. Yes. But I was surprised that someone in the media was that uninformed that they would actually think that there was something equivalent about me taking my own paycheck and donating it and him using taxpayer resources. And that just tells you the state of the media in our region.
Because they're not checking on this and they're going to assume
they don't know
it's not so
But how would you not know the difference?
You have to look. Right. Do your home as a member of the media, do your homework. Look
but that's pretty obvious. Personal money versus taxpayer money, right?
You would think so. But I do want to ask, is it unusual for someone, a freshman, to come in, especially someone who, now this is a freshman who has government experience, and coming in with an agenda, quote unquote, that they said that they have, and yet go 2 months and not present that agenda. And what I consider part of the job is standing up, here's a bill, this is what my constituents believe, what we think will help the nation, and put that out there, which in not doing that means you're not doing your job and or you don't have an agenda. That's the way I take it.
Well, I look at it as, first of all, let's look at the campaign. They called it projection in the breakout session I was in, but he literally ran the Claudia Tenney campaign. He saw that what I've done running against the status quo, the wealthiest, most powerful people in my community, and people in New York State, and that I was able to win with very little money. He did the same thing. He said, I'm going to be the corruption fighter. I'm going to portray myself as the corruption fighter like Claudia Tenney, and I'm going to portray her as some kind of crook or some person that's just taking advantage and part of the swamp. And they did a perfectly duplicitous campaign. Now he's trying to pretend to be a Democrat, but also a moderate, which he's not. And now he's got a problem because the Democrats are in crisis. He said he wouldn't vote for Nancy Pelosi, so he wanted to live up to his campaign pledge. So he said all through the campaign, all last year, we need a fresh, new, young voice in Congress. This is who our leadership needs to be. That's why I'm not voting for Nancy Pelosi. You can listen to it ad nauseum. He said it over and over, fresh, new, young leadership. And he voted for Joe Biden, 76-year-old,
That's why I was laughing.
Career politician, old-time guy. Is that really? And he threw that vote away because it was probably a safe vote for Nancy Pelosi. And now he's a man without a country because Ocasio-Cortez railed against Nancy Pelosi. And in the end, she protested Nancy Pelosi's office. I was still in Congress when she was downstairs with all their gaggle of media protesting. And guess what happened? Nancy Pelosi reached out to her and said, I need your vote. Right. And she got an A committee like mine, financial services. She also got a seat on the oversight committee, which are those are jewels.
Big deals. Those are A-lists.
As a freshman, I got an A committee. Now, I went online and made a comment. Now, Anthony wanted to get on armed services. He was not in the front of the line. No. Now, we know it's a wink and a nod to Nancy Pelosi. You know I made a campaign promise I can't vote for you.
Right.
But in the end, here's the problem. There's over 200 people that are ahead of him in line. Yes. So she has a lot of mouths to feed in terms of seniority, committee assignments, and other things. So he really has done nothing to advocate for our community. He probably would have been smarter and better off to take his druthers and vote for her and get something and get ahead of the line to bring some clout back to our region. But now he's on 2B committees, which the Farm Bill's passed. It's not going to pass for another 5 years. He's got the Veterans Committee, which a lot of major legislation already came out of there that was mostly in energy and commerce and mostly in the Rules Committee and other different areas. So a lot of that's, he's not going to really doing any serious legislation there. And so I think he's in a tough spot as far as being able to provide legislative achievements, to be able to provide resources back to the community because he's so far behind in line. When they come to dole out what you get out of whether it's member items or, the Democrats are bringing back pork if they can. When he comes to doing that, I mean, where's he going to go? I mean, he's in a really terrible position. So my query to the voters is you replace someone who had all the connections with the president, with the Senate, in the majority party, who brought historic resources back to the district and legislation, 5 bills that became law, in addition to several other bills that I co-sponsored that became law, to a guy who's not going to really get anything done for 2 years other than pretend to be Claudia Tenney when he needs to appeal to Republicans. And now he's got to appeal to the resist movement. His voting records all over the board.
He's going to have and he's never going to be.
But unfortunately, the thing that concerns me is the media doesn't care. They don't care. They don't want a real advocate. They don't want to change the status quo in our region. We have the poorest region, probably one of the most poor regions in the entire nation. And it's going to stay that way. But because of some of the things we did with restoring funding and tax reform and rolling back regulations on small banks and small community institutions like our credit unions, instead of all that, you're going to have somebody that's going to really be kind of a do-nothing legislator who's just going to, just name-call me for 2 years.
Well, that's all he has.
That's what concerns me. But so would I run? Maybe. But if I can find someone who I think can beat him, who I think could be as aggressive an advocate as I am, I think I would support them as well.
I think you know of all the 5. There's 4 names.
Are there? I don't even know who's considered.
Oh, you don't?
I know 1 or 2 that are the same people that have been out there. But.
Well, we're at the end of the show, so I can't tell you the names. while we're on air. So
Yeah.
too bad, guys. You'll
We'll
hear
wait
about
till
those
it
rumors.
afterwards.
Yeah, we'll talk about it afterwards. But we know that Anthony Brindisi is not going to be able to bring in the people that you brought in, the attention you brought
Right.
into the New York 22nd District, because he doesn't have those relationships. So I think that it's absolutely true that we are in the New York 22nd a deficit.
I'll tell you what people. It's sad that the people don't know enough, but they've been bludgeoned by their poor leadership that we've had so much in the past, whether it's in Congress, state level, local level. And I'll give you an example. I went to a very nice, one of my favorite restaurants in Utica a few weeks ago, and the manager came out and he said, "Hey, do you think this is a couple weeks ago, so we have a new member of Congress." He said, "Do you think you can get Trump back to help us with our new edition and get this out?" And I said, "Not unless I'm your member of Congress or something, like that's just not going to happen."
Yeah, he's the president.
Yeah, he's the president. And so if you had elected me, there would be a chance of that. We could do some kind of an event. And he said, "Wow, that sucks."
Yeah.
So that's a quote.
That sounds like the Brindisi administration or his term.
Yeah.
Definitely going forward.
Thank you.
But I do know that it's
Time's up.
The show's over.
I got to run.
3 minutes, but
thank you so much, and I hope you're having fun at CPAC. I'm really glad you got a chance to be here.
Having a blast, and it's always wonderful to see you.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, great to see you.
And folks, we're actually going to just end right here. The next guest is coming on, Melanie Paulette. It's Money Talk with Melanie. So check her out on the Exceptional Conservative Show.com, and you'll be able to see her there. And I'll be talking to everyone tomorrow at 1 p.m. We'll also be taping President Trump and talking to a bunch of people, but I'll look forward to seeing you all then. Until then, everyone, I want you to be well. Thank you for checking us out, and you'll see more coverage from CPAC very, very soon.